Hi, I am here with Brianna Wu, and we want to follow up on her recent conversations in Arlington and other venues by digging in a little bit deeper to the question of online privacy, protecting yourself and your identity, and what happens when you are subject, as Brianna has been, to the kinds of harassment and threatening that she has found herself subject to. So, Brianna, thanks.
Lovely. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
We'll start. I mean, the situation is complicated for any number of reasons, but whether on purpose or not, you have become a public figure.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know that in the fields of libel and slander, which is not exactly what we're talking about here, but nonetheless, that gives fewer protections to somebody.
It does.
Do you find that that's been the case also with what you're dealing with in terms of this online harassment?
Well, something a lot of people don't know about me is, my background is in journalism, even though I work as an engineer now. And one of the most useful classes I ever took in college was actually about communication law. So, I would be, for legal purposes, considered a limited purpose public figure, which is a different classification of it. So, what happens basically is, say, we're at Arlington Town Hall right now. If someone comes in and they're an elected official here, they have no privacy. A limited public figure like I am, we have more of it, so you can look at my background as it relates to the thing I'm a public figure about, but my marriage would probably be off limits, things about my private life would be.
Would and should be off
correct.
limits.
But the sad part is that doesn't really, it's a hard thing to actually go through. I've certainly thought about bringing lawsuits against some of the people that have defamed me. And the truth is, it's so expensive and it's so time consuming that there's only so much stuff I can do. I have a very demanding job. Being head of an engineering team is extremely stressful. So, the truth is, I just can't fight every battle, even if I'd end up winning in the end.
Yes, and there is just kind of, as you have mentioned, the idea of legal recourse in this situation. I know that there was a recent Supreme Court decision that's just come out, which does not clarify at all, in fact, what rights to privacy and to self-protection anybody has in what is seemingly still the Wild West.
Well,
the
not
internet.
even the privacy, that was against this case ruling was about the right of someone to threaten someone's life as creative expression. And I think it's important to note that battle is not over yet. Jurisprudence is very slow to really work its way out. So, there's a lot of work left to be done there. I think very clearly, just because I have opinions about my inequality in this field of video games, I don't believe that means I need to have my life threatened on a weekly basis. So I think that, I think that in the end, I expect justice to win out.
Well, you have mentioned just now that you have had your life threatened entirely too much at this point. Can you tell us a little bit about what the effects have been from finding yourself in this position that you are?
Well, I think it's something anyone can empathize with. So imagine for you, if over the last 10 months, you'd had people tell you they were going to murder you 110 times. Imagine over the last 10 months, you had your financials targeted repeatedly. Imagine over the last 10 months that you've had your address leaked, your birth date leaked, your all kinds of private information about your life. And even beyond that, what's most troubling is just outright lies about your life that are then taken by the public and believed to be fact. How would that make you feel?
Right.
It would be bad, right?
Absolutely. It would be eviscerating, actually.
It would. It's paralyzing at times. I don't mind telling you, every single time I get a knock on the door at my house, my heart starts racing because I'm worried it's someone there to do me harm. So it has terrible effects on your happiness, your ability to do your job, and that's the whole point, right? What I think is so interesting about the people that are targeting me and other women in the video game industry is they can't compete on ideas. So their tools have to be harassing us, slandering us, and doing these illegal things to us because they can't come forward with their ideas. What's awesome about the things I believe in is I don't have to threaten anyone. I just talk about the ideas that I believe, and I have no doubt they can stand on their own. And a reasonable member of the public will look at what I'm advocating and what these kind of toxic gamers are advocating, which is frankly this 1950s view of women in technology. And I have no doubt we're going to win.
Mm-hmm. I know that when you mentioned death threats, I in researching before speaking to you, I got to see some of these posts, and it's very disturbing, to say the least.
Yeah.
But what is illegal here? You were saying they're illegal acts.
Sure.
Is that? I'm not saying that that's open to question in terms of your perception of your safety, et cetera. But where do we stand again in terms of how legal these intrusions into your privacy are?
So, I'm not going to come to you right now with this is what I think. I'm going to tell you what the lawyers have adjudicated, in this specific event over many years of jurisprudence. So Danielle Citron is one of the world's leading experts on this. So, it is absolutely illegal for someone to say, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to kill you. Your raped, dead, mutilated corpse is going to be on the front page of Jezebel tomorrow. That is an illegal thing to say, because it would be illegal if I say it to your face. It's obviously illegal to say that over the internet. So, the truth is we do have laws already that make the prosecution of this possible. Obviously, I'm a limited, public figure. So if someone tells me, Brianna, you suck, Brianna, you're the worst person on earth, Brianna Wu, you're a liar, a charlatan, I just, that's what I signed up for a certain extent. So that doesn't bother me. But it's the very specific threats to harm me and to harm my family. And also to hack our company's financial information. A lot of people don't know this about me. Gamergate has made a targeted effort to sabotage my company's financials by hacking it repeatedly. Our developer accounts through iTunes, where people can buy our software, we've had to go and back channel with Apple to secure that. Our credit cards, our company credit cards, we've been subjected to identity theft there. And it's every day that we're dealing with these crimes, and it's really frustrating.
Because in this case, the forces arrayed against you are a combination of gamers coming from a certain kind of culture, but also hackers, right? Which I assume there's a lot of cross-pollination between these groups.
Absolutely. One of the things I find so frustrating is, I've talked to the FBI about these groups repeatedly. I could pull up an internet browser right now and show you a site filled with Gamergaters where you can get SQL injection tools, which are a way to bypass databases and get the salt and hashes to decrypt email, credit card information. They have these tools. They have tools to do denial of service attacks to shut down websites. They have sites where they don't just list my private information, but dox federal judges, putting their social security number, their financials out there. So, these are very, very clearly illegal acts by Gamergate. Now, I'm not a member of law enforcement. They constantly tell me to be patient and to wait for the wheels of justice to turn. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, there are many illegal acts to prosecute here. And we've given them a lot of names and dates and, evidence about it.
Mm-hmm. And you did mention law enforcement, and I know that you have had to find recourse in legal protection from the police and private security. I'm not sure in order to operate, to live your life.
Right.
How has the response been here in Arlington to your needs?
Right. Well, part of the reason I agreed to this today is, I'm asked to do a lot of media, and I wanted to do local media here in Arlington to kind of, say thanks to the community that has really protected my life. I would give the Arlington Police an A for coming to my house, taking reports, and working with higher law enforcement. So I just want to tell you, your tax dollars are, they're doing a good job here. That said, it is very frustrating to me that no one has been prosecuted for the many, many, many death threats that I've had. I can't even count them at this point, but the last time I checked, it was 110. So, but that's not up to Arlington PD to do. The FBI has stepped in, is very clearly asserted jurisdiction over this. So, it's pretty much a waiting game. I would say this. We are a small company. We can only hire so many people. And when I have to waste an entire position on someone to schedule harassment and to deal with that and to communicate with law enforcement, that is a huge drain on my company economically. And I think it's a real waste of time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what, through this excruciating experience you have been in the middle of for some time, and I guess there's no signs that it's going to be abating anytime soon. No. What have you learned and what can you share with people about how to protect yourself going forward?
Sure. Well, I think there's kind of a blame the victim mindset with this sometimes. Like if you'd been a little bit more careful, you would not have had your private information out there. So I want to be very clear in talking with your viewers today. There is no course of action anyone can take where they can be 100% safe. I recently was having a conversation with a friend of mine in the game industry. This is a very, very famous woman. And she was talking about her frustrations in buying a house and trying to keep her name off public records so she didn't have to worry about people coming by. And the conclusion she came to is it's impossible. So you can certainly be smart about it. There are certain things you can do to basically be as safe as possible. Anyone out there needs to be using strong passwords. So I have a program called 1Password, which generates random strings of like 50 characters and saves it into an encrypted program. So when I go to PayPal, when I go to iCloud, when I go to Gmail, when I go to my private webmail address, those all have randomly encrypted passwords, which are very hard to hack. So that is a step anyone out there needs to be taken. But there's no magic course of action where you can say, well, I've done the right steps here and I'm not going to be a target. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Such randomly encrypted passwords, for instance, obviously I, as a person who spends a certain amount of time online, might want to make purchases or something like that, or pay my bills. I'm aware of these as well, or at least that Google offers to do that for you. How safe is that as a recourse?
So I'm going to try to explain this like in a non-engineering way. I want to be really clear. Even if you use 1Password and make like a 50-digit random encrypted string, you're not safe. So what hackers have been doing lately, I'm sure your viewers have seen in the news, like Sony being hacked, Ashley Madison being hacked, just this week Planned Parenthood was attacked. So what they can do is if they get the other end of the database, if they get what they call the hash, then they can go through and brute force it because they have all this information here. So they keep trying these permutations until it starts generating like things that are coherent. Mm-hmm. So, there's no course of action that can keep you magically safe. It's frankly a very scary situation.
It is a scary situation because, as you mentioned earlier in our conversation, the law is always going to be behind, especially the latest in technological innovation, and the harnessing of the power of computing in the way that you were just describing, where you can brute force it, as I think you were just saying, does seem to mean that we are all perpetually vulnerable.
Yeah,
so
that is absolutely accurate. Yeah.
And so, do you have any sense of hopefulness around this at all, either for yourself or to share with others, for promising directions of any sort that this can be going in?
I'm speaking right now as a software engineer, and the truth is, if you go to your web browser and just type in a website address, you're using pieces of code that someone wrote a decade ago. And then you're using pieces of code and a protocol that someone else wrote a decade ago. And there are just so many moving parts to how modern computers work that I don't really have faith that this is ever going to be safe. There are certain advances that we can hope that we can get to. One is quantum computing, which is a really exciting place that we're trying to get to in the tech industry. There's also a really interesting concept called security through obesity. And the basic idea of this is hard drive space is so cheap nowadays that to just throw so much random junk at something and to just massively increase your file size to the point where even brute forcing makes it nigh impossible to get through it.
So if I understand what you're just saying, what obesity would be doing in this case is creating large enough haystacks so that the needle is that much harder to find?
Exactly. So instead of saying, well, we're going to have 50 digits here, maybe you have 50 million digits here, which makes it practically impossible to get through in brute force. But one of the reasons I choose to stay in the tech sector, I had a certain political party that approached me a few weeks ago and asked me if I was interested in running. I want to be honest with you. I think the real power to change the world is in private industry, and specifically in the tech industry. The things our company is working on right here in Arlington, it has some fascinating applications for teaching empathy and kind of, in a roundabout way, solving this Gamergate problem. So I really believe that if we have leaders in the technology field, I think that is where the solution comes to for a lot of this. I don't count on the government to keep me safe.
So I'm wondering, given your own experience and the lacerating nature of your own experience here, what would you say to a young woman who might be interested in this field? And why haven't you yourself given up?
I've certainly thought about it this year. My message out there for any woman that's thinking about becoming a software engineer is very clear. We're going to make it better for you. I promise you. And the women in the industry right now, you have brave game changers. They're putting everything on the line to make it better for you. We are risking our lives. We are risking our sanity. We are risking everything we have to change this. And I promise you, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this will be better. So do not let anyone stop you. But let me stop for a moment and give just a bit of practical advice for any woman that might be in her 20s, that's about to enter this field. You are going to have people shouting you down every single day. They're going to treat you like a sex object. They're going to talk over you in meetings. They're going to, make you feel in 1,000 small ways that your feelings are not important. Do not let that affect you. The best trait you could have for dealing with this is supreme stubbornness. So believe in yourself. I promise you, you're better than you think you are. There's such a constant theme I find as I work with other women in software engineering, is that women constantly underestimate their skills, and the men I work with constantly overestimate their skills, with all respect. So believe in yourself, and also find a support system. Reach out to me, send me an email, I will plug you in. We women in the software engineering industry, we do have groups where we talk to each other. You have to have friends, because without friends, the BS you deal with on a daily basis is just going to overwhelm you.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to give you an opportunity. I'm not sure if there's anything else that you wanted to add in this conversation that you haven't had a chance to say.
Sure. When we're talking about women in tech, being able to work in the field of video games, we are not talking about making a Super Mario Brothers game, which is not important in the grand scheme of things. Right now, we are sitting in a building that was built by an engineer. They figured out the structure so the floor doesn't fall underneath us right now. They figured out how to do the beams so it will stand up to years of weather and hurricanes. Engineers build societies. Engineers built the aqueducts, way back when. And now the frontiers that we are moving in as a human race, you have software engineers that are inventing the future of where we all communicate, how we share ideas, how we talk to each other, how we buy things. So when we are talking about women in tech, the fundamental question that we are asking ourselves is, Do women get to have a hand in building the future of the human race? Because right now, it is a very small set of people that get to build the communities that we talk in, that get to build the protocols that keep us safe, that get to set the policies deciding what is private, what is not. So we are really talking about something that is huge and extremely important here. What is sad is I've had to have really serious conversations with my husband. Are we willing to die for this? Because when you have hundreds of death threats sent your way, when you have people every day saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to rape you, it is not unreasonable to start thinking about your life. And the reason I came to this conclusion that this is worth putting your life on the line for is I think we're really talking about the future of the human race here.
I want to thank you for the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's been illuminating, certainly not very encouraging
Yeah.
in a number of respects, but nonetheless important to get all of this out on the table, in the air, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Seems like bringing as much light as possible to these issues is maybe our only recourse at this point.
I agree with that. It's imperative. Thank you for having me on.